Sensory evaluation is traditionally thought of as the testing methods and the tools that we use to get consumers and to get human participants to evaluate food products. Sensory science is the broader field that studies not only how consumers react to product, but also attempts to understand people in their own right.
Flavor components, taste and aroma components primarily, are not an easy breeding trait. Flavor is a multisensorial construct that happens when we have something in our mouth, and that encompasses smelling and tasting and trigeminal receptor responses, chemothesis, somatosensation, so changes in texture, think creaminess, etc., but also sound.
A sensory scientist would say that taste is our 5 basic tastes, plus maybe more, that are perceived via receptors on our tongue. So we have receptors for sweet, we have receptors for salty, we have receptors for bitter, etc.
And then the third major part of flavor is the role of oral touch. So that would include both things like the texture of ice cream or the crunch of a potato chip, but also the burn that you get from a chili pepper or the cooling you get from a cough drop. So flavor is really the integration in the brain of taste, smell, and oral touch.
If you want to breed for flavor, you need to find some parts of the genome that you can target that are connected to your flavor, but you also need a way of how can you phenotypically measure flavor. And that's where the sensory science comes into play, because in the end, the human is the person that determines what flavor is. You can approximate with instrumental analysis. You could measure particular flavor compounds that you know are important for flavor, but until you have this knowledge, there's no way that you could just measure something with a pH meter or with an HPLC or GC and say, oh, look at this, these are all important.
Human behavior is a tricky thing to study, that one day I may want this beer or another day I want that glass of wine, and my choices might not even be stable across days. So psychophysics is actually the oldest branch of experimental psychology. It dates all the way back to the 1830s and 1840s in Germany, and really is what moved psychology from being a discipline within philosophy to an experimental science. Within food science, we use psychophysical methods to try and rigorously quantify the perceptions that people have from food products. We don't all perceive stimuli the same way, and that's been one of the major insights that we've made using modern psychophysical tools and modern molecular genetics to understand that you and I can taste the exact same thing and perceive it very differently.
But we do a lot of work on genetic differences that influence how people taste and perceive flavor. So certainly there are very well-known differences in genes that affect how people's perception. Obviously the industrial research we do is very helpful to our partners, but it also gives our undergraduate students and our graduate students practice in conducting sensory tests, very different types of sensory tests.
We test anywhere from 300 to 600 people a week through this facility. So our students really leave here with hands-on experience on how to quarterback a sensory test in a high-throughput environment. The reason we need to study sensory science is because fundamentally at the end of the day, a consumer is going to buy a food product. And a food product that doesn't taste good will not sell well.